Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to take a look back and reflect on Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it went right, where it went wrong, and where it leaves the universe going forward for Phase 5 in 2023. As I'll be talking about it in depth, there will likely be plenty of spoilers for all movies and television series in this phase, as well as possible ones for also Phases 1 to 3, so just beware when going into this overall video. And you can check out my extensive coverage of all Phase 4 content within the channel, and I'll leave some links within the description. So then, when looking back on Phase 4, I'd say it was an experimental phase, a phase with a lot of ideas and concepts, a lot of which didn't work out as well as planned. We had a lot of different directions and characters who didn't make the same impact culturally as what we saw previously. It very much was driven by a focus on diversity from race, gender, disability, sexual orientation, very similar to the all-new, all-Marvel approach that we saw from the comic books. That itself divided a lot of fans in that genre, and we did see a similar division to an extent within the MCU. Whilst the fan base and support is still large and still strong, Phase 4 really saw the emergence of a sustained anti-feeling or negativity, primarily through social media. Whether it was down to superhero fatigue, the Brie Larson Captain Marvel controversy, the anti-feeling towards Disney as a studio and corporation, but Phase 4 really saw for the first time a sustained antagonism against the Marvel brand, which wasn't really there from Phases 1 to 3. That in itself highlights perhaps the flaws in Phase 4. And when we look at the start of Phase 4, it did of course come off the commercial peak of the universe with Avengers Endgame, which for a short while was the highest grossing movie of all time with $2.7 billion. Most significantly, Phase 4 saw the universe delve into the television genre for the first time, propelled by the launch of the Disney Plus streaming platform. In theory, it made perfect sense. As the universe continued to grow and dominate entertainment, you could explore further with extended hours of television episodes, introduce characters who perhaps weren't quite cinematic worthy, and build them up through streaming. Through strong synergy, the movies could feed the shows and vice versa, and this theory and plan seemed sound. And so we saw this initiative after Black Widow being pushed back to 2021 during COVID. WANDAVISION kicked off the phase in January 2021, focusing on a continued story of Wanda Maximoff and her psychosis and trauma post the events of Infinity War, where she lost vision during the fight against Thanos. Falcon and the Winter Soldier saw the pairing up of Sam Wilson aka Falcon and Bucky Barnes aka Winter Soldier post the permanent departure of Captain America. LOKI saw the first story with the villain as the lead in time-travelling adventures, which resulted in the origins of the multiverse. We then saw the return to the movies, first with Black Widow and Natasha Romanoff finally getting her long overdue installment in July the 9th, 2021. The diversity initiative continued with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, with the all-Asian cast storyline focusing on the martial arts master finding his purpose. We then delved more into the cosmic elements with the Eternals, a group of engineered superpowered beings conflicted with interfering in the world's events. We then had the fourth television show with Hawkeye and Avenger Clint Barton recovering from the events of Endgame alongside young teenager Kate Bishop. And we closed out 2021 with, without question, the commercial high point of the phase with Spider-Man No Way Home, the third Tom Holland Spider-Man installment, grossing over $1.9 billion at the box office without a China release. After several release date changes, 2022 started with another new character in the Moon Knight series, concentrating on a character with multiple personality disorder. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness saw the Sorcerer Supreme go up against a villainous Wanda Maximoff in the second biggest movie of the phase. Miss Marvel saw the introduction of Kamala Khan, a more extension into the diversity initiative by covering Muslim history and culture. Thor then became the first character to have 4 solo movies when Thor Love and Thunder introducing Jane Foster as Lady Thor from the comic books. We then saw She-Hulk finally make her entrance into the universe in a very much of a comedy quirky legal parody when the series debuted in August. And we finally closed out Phase 4 with the sequel Black Panther Wakanda Forever, carrying resonance following the passing of Chadwick Boseman, who played T'Challa in the first film from 2018. So when we first focus on what was good about Phase 4, and probably the best aspect was that there was certainly an attempt to widen the universe in terms of scope and characterization. As much as we loved the OG characters, if you kept just making Iron Man, Captain America and Thor movies, then the universe would become stale and never grow and evolve. So there was always an intent, a certain ambition, certainly visually with the likes of Multiverse of Madness and Eternals, where we saw the concepts of the Celestials, which provides some hope of eventually seeing Galactus and a Silver Surfer movie. We look at Spider-Man No Way Home, the biggest commercial success as mentioned before, which at $1.9 billion proved that movies can still make it big theatrically in the post-pandemic climate if you make them accessible and entertaining enough. And this showed that the MCU could still at least get close to the high levels of both Infinity War and Endgame. And despite the debates over the box office numbers of Phase 4, which of course haven't been as high as Endgame, we couldn't expect them to be. But not every entry is going to hit $1 billion, and if we discount the likes of Black Widow, Eternals and Shang-Chi, which is still very early post-pandemic, the numbers have still been very strong, with the likes of Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder and Wakanda Forever and No Way Home hitting at least a minimum of $750 million worldwide. No other movie studio has come anywhere close to matching these kind of numbers with such consistency and frequency. So despite arguments to the contrary about the Marvel brand, it still remains strong and it still trends big on social media whenever new content is released, and whilst there would be a come down from Endgame, no other brand is still as prolific, with plans for the future and a very much strong fan base that continues to support the universe. So we then go on to what was wrong about Phase 4, and even the most passionate MCU supporter can't deny that there were certainly some major issues. Now for me, the biggest issue was simply the quality, both in terms of storytelling and characterization. The writing overall has been very flawed and at times lackluster and uninspired. In this aspect, we have to focus on the Disney Plus shows, and sadly all of them were very disappointing and average at best. So much hype and promise in terms of expanding the universe, and they all simply failed to deliver. Now for me, none of the shows have any rewatchability about them. None of them could provide a compelling enough reason to stick with the shows all the way through. The likes of Hawkeye and Miss Marvel weren't very terrible, but they were just very bland. Miss Marvel, another sign of focusing far more on diversity rather than a story. WANDAVISION wasted all of its potential by overindulging in the sitcom reality, only becoming interesting in the final 2 episodes. The real major disappointments were both in Loki and Moon Knight, very inconsistent in their tone and also scattershot in their storytelling. And as far as She-Hulk goes, oh boy, a complete waste of time for one of Marvel Comics' most prominent female characters, a complete misfire in which the showrunners admitted themselves that the show was created by design to combat all the trolls and haters on social media, which in itself is a major concern. Thor Love and Thunder also showed signs of laziness, essentially just doubling down on the jokey approach seen from Thor Ragnarok. Whilst having a certain grandeur and scale, Eternals lost grip of the multiple concepts it was trying to show, plus trying to juggle 10 main characters, which it didn't manage to do very well at all. Now the declining quality of storytelling is linked to another big issue, and that is the overloading of content. Marvel was already giving us 3 movies per year from 2017, and now the MCU content intensified even further in 2021, where we had 4 movies and 5 shows if you count the What If series. 2022 gave us 3 movies and 4 shows overall. Now, if everything was of a high quality, then there would be no problem. But unfortunately, due to very mixed quality at best, then this was obviously a big issue. Now we could perhaps say that superhero fatigue has certainly entered the realm, not only with the MCU but just in modern day entertainment in general. And whilst Phase 4 has had large criticism from fans and critics, people don't get fatigued if the product is good. And if Marvel continues to serve up very generic substandard content, then even their fan base will start to get fatigued, and this perhaps is probably the biggest concern in terms of the universe. And perhaps that fatigue will also depend on the other major issue, and that is the choice of character. Now the foundation of the success of the MCU are indeed the characters and how well the audience is connected to them. But unfortunately in Phase 4, the likes of Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, America Chavez, Riri Williams and Echo just don't have the same appeal, and it seems that these characters will continue to be pushed going forward. Will these characters be able to carry the universe in the same way that Thor, Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow did? And this is again where we could see the diverse initiative ultimately work against the MCU, alongside the overloading of content which will also fatigue fans. So as Phase 4 closes, we do look forward to Phases 5 and 6, which have already been announced. These phases will see the furthering of the multiverse, the introduction of Kang the Conqueror, who seems to be the next big villain after Thanos. We will see Avengers Secret Wars, an adaptation of the massive comic book storyline crossover, and eventually we will see the introduction of both the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. So on the horizon, it certainly looks far more promising than what we saw in Phase 4, but overall we will wait to see how indeed it goes going forward, and whether Marvel can possibly get back to those high levels that what we saw particularly in Phases 1, 2 and 3. But as a summary, overall, Phase 4, whilst having some good intentions, was ultimately misjudged and perhaps forced very much so by the continued drive of the Disney Plus streaming platform. And when we look at it overall, I do feel that perhaps we needed a far more extended break from Avengers Endgame, perhaps in the region of 3 to 4 years, just to give everybody a chance to calm down, and certainly for Marvel's case to really re-energise their creative juices and perhaps start off the phase with far more smaller scale stories and then build up consistently over that. And whilst not signalling the death of the universe, the Marvel brand is just too strong to reach that point for now. Phase 4 is ultimately forgettable and experimental, and certainly not in any way, shape or form a high point within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's my overall thoughts and feelings and reflection on Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What did you feel were the high points? Did you indeed think it was the worst phase of the universe, or did you somehow have opinions that perhaps it was the better phase of the universe? And are you excited for the future of the MCU going forward into phases 5 and 6? Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, as we delve far more into Phase 5 in 2023, I will of course provide extensive coverage of all of the movies and television series released within the Phase 5, so look out for that in the future. And of course, any other headlines or breaking news surrounding Marvel content, you'll be able to check that out of course in detail within the channel. But if you have any other suggestions regarding any movies or television series or any other issues in the entertainment industry that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter in the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.